the fun part, probably the meat and bones of this episode, and this is going to be our edge rusher prospect rankings. We both have 15-ish guys ranked slash evaluated. I have 13 with a full write-up, and then I have another two that brings my list to 15 that aren't full write-ups, just kind of watched them a little bit here and there, but didn't have the time to do a deep dive on them. But you have a full 15, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm thinking about just naming my 15 to 11 just really quickly, and then again we can really deep dive the 10 to 1. The 15, 14, and 13 are really in no particular order for me at this point. But that's David Walker. For those who don't know, he's the edge rusher out of Central Arkansas. He has a small frame and comes from an even smaller college. He's 6'1". He does a good job using his natural leverage as a pass rusher, and he has a good pass rush plan, but he's just not really explosive at all. He just reminds me a lot of a small school. Brandon Graham is the best way I would describe that. 14 for me is JTT, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. He has a very high floor for me as a run defender. I think he could step in immediately and start on rundowns and saying, I'm setting this edge, no one is getting past me. But for me, he didn't flash a whole lot of pass rush upside. And then for 13, it's his teammate there, Jack Sawyer. I think he's going to be a fine rotational piece, but I don't ever think he's going to be this, impact starter for me. I think he's a very physical guy. I think he's a very smart guy, gritty. Some could say he plays with good power, has a good bull rush and strong arm, and is just smart. He has a good understanding of pullers, run scheme, blocking schemes, and does a good job of setting the edge. But he doesn't have a good first step. He has not so good ankle flexion, meaning his bend is bad. He's not super twitched up, and he's just overall a really stiff guy. But I think he could, again, come in and be a good third pass rusher and just do kind of, again, the gritty stuff that you need rather than these flashy guys that we see up at the top of the draft. But those are 15 to 13 for me. And then the other guys, these guys are ranked now. They'd be Bradyn Swinson, the LSU guy. Seems to be everyone's darling as of late when it comes to the draft community. Everyone's kind of come out of the woodworks. Everyone's like, oh my God, we love him. For me, he just kind of seems as a good stand-up designated pass rusher right now, and maybe he could develop into more. But just a lot of speed to power. He does a good job with his inside counter. He does have flexible hips, which allows him to have good bend, good hand usage, and is a physical guy. But he's really, really, really bad in the run game. He's over-aggressive. He gets washed out in zone runs. He cannot handle a double team at all, and he takes really, really bad angles when it comes to tackling guys. And then he's still just developing that pass rush arsenal, which I think he can do because he's shown the ability to do so. And then 11, very quickly, is just Landon Jackson. For those who are wondering, Landon Jackson is that guy from, I think it was the Under Armour Bowl in high school. And it was that one guy who looked really, really goofy when going through the drills. That is Landon Jackson. He has a really good frame. He's 6'6", 264. Another guy that uses his speed to power very well and very good at attacking the run game at the point of attack and has violent, active hands and plays with high motor. And due to his frame, I think he can be a really good NASCAR defensive tackle. For those who are interested in what that means, that's just throwing in an extra, defensive end at the tackle position rather than a defensive tackle. So you just get more pass rushers out there on pass rushing downs. But he's not super quick. He plays with a high pad level because he is 6'6". He's not very good at bend, and he has a slow first step. So I think he has, again, a good high floor, but I think he just lacks the bend and explosion to be a a real true sack artist at the next level. But those are very quickly my 15 to 11.
Do you want me to do the same? Run through my 15 to 11?
Yes.
All right. 15, we agree. I have David Walker out of Central Arkansas. Pros, he's an intelligent and compact rusher. Shows and sets up his pass rush moves so elegantly for a smaller school guy, and flashes the quickness into the attacker to get inside and outside and win that way. Real deal leverage for a small guy, which is needed for success in the league. Flashes speed to power and flashes hands that are quick and on target in the run game. And then the cons, the cons are pretty simple. Like, he's a short and tight frame, sub 6'1", sub 32-inch arms, and good but not overwhelming athlete to make up for that frame. Lack of competition, had excellent production, but again, it's all with a grain of salt because he played FCS the last 3 years. And he's going to be 25 going into week 1. Not overly explosive off the line of scrimmage, getting to the outside shoulder of tackles. He will try and just punish through the chest of tackles, and it leads to just dead reps, both in the run game and the pass game. And he'll end up in the pass game losing contain because of it, so that's a problem. And then the short arms really flash in one-on-one blocking in the run game. He is a prototypical fun project end of in day 3 for me. So yeah. I think a lot of people like him because of the school that he went to, and it's fun to kind of dig in and find him and look at the production. But overall, there's a reason he's playing where he's playing. So
yeah.
Then we get to 14, Josiah Stewart out of Michigan by way of Coastal Carolina. Pros, he's an explosive and aggressive speed rusher. Has great momentum when timing the get off right and the acceleration to finish around the corner. Has leverage in his first contact, which is valuable for how small he is. And then motor is flash in his effort and pursuit speed when closing in on tackles. The only the cons are he's just small. He's 6'1", just like Walker's 6'1", but this time Walker's 260 something. Josiah Stewart is sub 250 with sub 32-inch arms, so it's hard to make exceptions for that guy. He's just an outlier for some teams with his size, not an overwhelming run defender, will get outmatched in situations, but is instinctual when cutting up into the middle of gaps at the line of scrimmage. I wanted to give him that plus. And then the hands need more pop and strength. Didn't showcase speed to power, didn't flash many counters. Sometimes rushes would just die if he didn't get right around the corner. So that was my 14, Josiah Stewart. 13, Oluwafemi Oladejo out of UCLA, by way of Cal Berkeley. His pros, he has the motor, the effort, and mentality of a killer made on the edge. Has heavy, violent hands at the line of scrimmage and is looking to set a strong edge in the run game, and has a ton of just tone-setting mentality for me. Has the counter phase down, in outside shoulder chop move and spin move primarily were the things I saw him getting to, but in those contact battles, he knew how to feed off of them. The only con, or the biggest con for me, I have it in all caps, was lack of plan, because this guy has only been a pass rusher for 1 season at UCLA. At 2 years at Cal, he was an off-ball linebacker, and last year at UCLA was an off-ball linebacker. So just overall needs to figure everything out. He gets redirected too often because of his straight line rushes and his averaged frame. And then, diagnose in the run game will need to get better if he wants to be an every down player. Again, him and Stewart are kind of in that fun little range where it's maybe he sneaks up, maybe someone really likes him, but at the same time, it's you are a role player probably, and we'll find out down the line where that role is. Number 12, you mentioned both 12 and 11 here. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. The pros, elite height and length gives him flexibility to play inside and out. Hands are violent and intelligent, uses his hands in the counter phase very well. Good athlete all around, flashes the speed to power and get off for a very tall player. The cons, the upper body play strength for his size is just lackluster. Doesn't bull rush and doesn't split double teams with real deal power for how big he is. That was an issue with me. Not enough of an athlete to threaten the outside shoulder consistently. Lack of just overall lack of flexibility and bend. He's just not a bendy athlete. Like, he is a very stiff athlete. And then he wins. Like, his winning as a pass rusher was with his motor and his motor alone currently. Has the hand skills to work moves, work pass rush moves, but again, need to see it to make it happen. 11, JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. Pros, long, framey athlete, has interior plausibility, strong and powerful. That was my biggest thing with him, is that he was very strong and powerful, strong in edge setting, had a powerful bull rush. The violent hands had intent behind them when he's in both the pass game and the run game. High motor until the whistle with a clean bill of injury history, and excellent production in his final year. 50 pressures, 15 sacks, 39 run stops, all according to PFF. He probably didn't have 15 sacks total, but PFF counts half sacks, so 15, half sacks, total sacks, however you want to say it. And then his cons, for the most part, is a subpar athlete, lacks NFL twitch, explosiveness, and burst off the line. Pass rush moves consist of overwhelming the guy in front of him with his motor and power. Needs to gain moves to be a starter. Both him and Landon Jackson, I see the same way. Both pretty stiff NFL athletes, but they have the size and the power that, Tuimoloau is more powerful than Landon Jackson, so that's probably why I have him higher. But just overall, I think both of those guys are role players walking in the door that there is a fun upside to develop into, but overall, I don't see them as first round guys, where I feel like that's these 12, 11, 10, and then 9 I would all have as cutoff. You guys aren't first rounders, but from 8 up, I think everybody could be a first rounder, all 8 of these guys. So
I'm right there in the same boat with you. From 8 up is all guys I at least expect to be taken. Obviously, you never know.
Top 50 guys, I'll say that.
Yes, yeah. Top 50 is a good one. Josiah Stewart, love Josiah Stewart. And for a small guy, again, I didn't have him scouted, but as you can see with the flag behind me, I do watch a lot of him. The one play for Josiah Stewart that will always stand out for me specifically is not even a pass rushing move from him. It's when Michigan played Bama in the playoffs, and Bama's answer was to QB draw up the middle behind one J.C. Latham to take the lead and win the game. And of all people, the small edge rusher, Josiah Stewart, stopped J.C. Latham dead in his tracks, which allowed the rest of the defense to get him there. It was absolutely amazing. So, but we can go ahead and get started. It was perfect because my number 10 was a guy that you had covered in that list. I cannot pronounce his name. How do you pronounce the UCLA guy's name?
Oluwafemi? Oladejo.
Oladejo. Femi Oladejo is probably what people will most likely call him. He's my number 10 guy. Again, as you said, very raw, has not spent a lot of time at the position, as you noted, has only spent 1 year here as a true edge rusher. But man, his motor runs hot. He's just relentless. He will take, he will hunt guys down and he will not stop until he hears that whistle. I think he's a plus athlete. I think he showed a good bull rusher, only being 6'2", and he also showed a really good cross chop on tape, and those seem to be his two go-to moves. And for him to only have 1 year and have two good moves get it done, I think was really impressive for me. And again, he has that never say die mentality. But again, he's spent 1 year here. He's a very, very raw rusher. Again, smaller at 6'2", As you said, he needs to figure out a pass rush plan. He kind of just every snap just runs in there with his, hair on fire, kind of just waving his hands around. His hand usage really needs to get better. He stands up way too quickly out of his stance. And then his pass rush hand attacks just need better timing. But the more he does it, the more he should develop the timing on that. He might throw a move a little bit too early. He might throw a move a little bit too late. But again, that's as expected for a guy that has only played 1 year at this position. But again, for me, he's a guy that has shown really good traits for a dude who's only been there for 1 year. Again, I think I have him roughly on the edge of mid to late second. And I think a team is going to absolutely fall in love with what they've seen on tape and say, we're going to get him in the building and we are going to refine him and we're really going to turn this guy into a weapon. And I could absolutely see why. He was my number 10.
No, I completely agree. Like it's again, like just devoting that development to him because like I said, like he is a 1 year edge player and it was pretty decent production in the Big Ten. It wasn't like overwhelming, but you could still figure out watching him that he is still figuring everything out, and now he's going off to the league. So now it's just interesting. But yeah, my number 10, Jordan Burch out of Oregon, by way of South Carolina. His pros, explosive athletic freak with length and body type. Overall, just a powerful player. Strong bull rush, strong shedding ability in the run game, and takes on double teams with punisher intent. Motor was my favorite part. Has the never ever give up mentality. Has strong edge set mentality in the run game, and improved year to year on his pass rush stuff. Overall production, and like watching a game in Oregon in 2023 and then comparing his tape to 2024, you see a very different player, which is something I like to do. Maybe not too much 2023, but kind of throw on a game and just see the development pattern and see if that guy is improving or is he a ready-made product. And I think Jordan Burch is doing that. The cons, he's not a bendy player. He wins going right through you or not at all. He's like 6'5", 290. He's a huge dude. Still developing the overall bag of pass rush moves. Needs to get better in the counter phase when he loses off the line. And then lastly, 5th-year older prospect who broke out late in terms of production and has a collection of injuries early in his college career. Jordan Burch is not going to be for everybody, but I loved watching his tape, so he had to be up here for me. I liked him more than Tuim Oluwafemi and Landon Jackson, even if they kind of all three fit the same bill. But yeah, I really like Jordan Burch.
Yeah, Jordan Burch, I'm going to guess is the last guy on this list that I have not watched. Doing quick math, is Sawyer not on your list?
Sawyer is not on my list.
There it is. And I don't blame you. Sawyer's not for everyone. He's a bit light in the pants, that's for sure. Yeah, Jordan Burch is fun. Again, I haven't watched his tape. I just know what people think about him. So you go. Another guy I'll have to add to my list there. Number 9, I'd like to formally apologize to you here, Matt. This is Matt's guy. This has been Matt's guy since, before the Senior Bowl at this point. Matt has absolutely loved this guy. One Princely Umanmielan. People struggle to pronounce that last name. Again, it's Umanmielan for those who struggle. The pass rusher out of Ole Miss, and previously before that, Florida. I really wanted to like him more than what I did, but this class is just stacked full of really, really good guys. So he just found his way at 9 for me. I think he's a player that has good length, good size. It has a very good, quick first step. And I think he's a smart player that takes good angles and actually has very good blocking recognition. And again, seeing where these players are going to go. Absolute killer spin move. Sometimes he relies a little bit too much on it, where it should only be used as a counter, and sometimes he uses it as his go-to move. And then he has really good shoulder and hip dip, which gives him that really good bend that we all love to see that these elite pass rushers have. But there were a lot of times that he was just not even on the field for the early downs. Those are going to be your rundowns, which could be saying stuff about Ole Miss and how much they trust him to come in and be a rundown defender and set the edge and really stop it. He plays with high pads, and for a big guy, for him to stand up straight isn't very good. And then he has a thin frame, which right now isn't very good, but he can put more muscle on that. I have a little bit of concerns with that just because he's not the most athletic player ever. So I'm wondering if putting more weight on that might take away from the little bit of athleticism that he already has. And then he just lacks true elite power. And then he doesn't really have a fully developed pass rush arsenal yet. But that's something that over time, as you do it more, you get into the NFL system with these coaches that really know what they're doing, can teach you that. Again, really fun player. He just is stuck in a class with a lot of really, really good dudes. And for an SEC edge rusher, he's had good production at 2 different stops. So that's another plus for him. But, yeah, Prince Umanmielan at 9 for me.
Yeah, Umanmielan I had at 7, so not too much higher than what you had. The pros, long, bendy, explosive, winning pass rusher. He's an intelligent pass rusher when bending corners with his angle management and the way he dodges, tackle punches on the outside shoulder. Knows what he's doing with his hands, flashes the speed to power ability, but very limited though. I wanted him to really flash out of the Senior Bowl against some of those guys, and he was just deciding, I'm going to spin the entire weekend. He's professional in the way he sets up his pass rush moves. I think he's going in with an intelligent plan, idea of what he wants to do. And then lastly, you mentioned it, had really solid production with 100 pressures last 2 years combined at Ole Miss and Florida. The cons are just damning. He's a bad run defender. He has poor pad level. He isn't powerful and physical in the upper body. He needs to get stronger in his upper body. I don't know how much weight that would be, but he needs to get stronger in his arms because, like you said, he is a lean and tight guy, but he has longer arms for his frame. We'll need to expand the pass rush moves to be a true alpha player and like an every down player. Closing speed in pass rush shows and might result in great pressure numbers, but capped out sack numbers. And then lastly, the late get off sets up problems in finishing. So, yeah, overall, I had Umanmielan in my top 5 pretty early in the process. And the more you watch other players and the more you see what the potential of the other players, he might be a capped out player. But I think he's a good enough player that you can sneak him into the top 40 for one of these teams and he can be productive on a rookie contract. But overall, if you're going to pay him past that, it's not going to be a long, fruitful contract. So he's a very limited and capped out player, but still at 7 for me.
There you go. Who's your number 9?
Bradyn Swinson. You mentioned him out of LSU. The pros, he's speedy, explosive winning athlete with great flexibility and bend around the corner. Has good hand usage and technique when getting into pass rush moves, has upper body strength, flashes the speed to power, even if it's not a consistent winner. The cons, it's easy. It's a small, tight frame that might be capped out. He's another 5th-year player that he's a tight guy. He looks tight. High pad level is a problem because he is smaller, needs to learn to win the leverage battle due to his size. That's always a very important thing to see with these smaller guys is how do they deal with leverage? One of the perfect examples is one of the best centers of all time in Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce prided himself on the leverage battle, and so you want to exploit that advantage when you are a smaller guy. And so when I say that is what I'm trying to say is like these smaller guys really need to be intelligent in leverage management to really win long term in the NFL. And then lastly, his run defense all around isn't good enough. Won't be an early down run defender because he lacks the block shedding and discipline, but has a good motor. So I wanted to give that a shout. But overall, I do like Swinson. Just overall, like I do agree with you that he's become the darling of the class. I think he's in that, that little 9 range where it's like either I had to put him behind 10, 11, and 12 because he's a different kind of flavor, or I put him at 9. And so that's why I ended up putting him at 9, because I do like him more than the guys I mentioned at the bottom in 13, 14, and 15. So, yeah, overall, like Swinson's draft range, I think is going to be the 3rd round. I think he's pretty set there. Like, hate to scout the helmet, but it's a lot of BJ Ojolari out of him.
Yeah.
Like, it's you win one way and you're undersized. So let's figure out if we can get someone who can really put it together. And Ojolari went early 2nd, right? And he just
Correct, yeah.
And he's on a pretty downward trajectory with his injuries history. So yeah,
he's been hurt. He hasn't really had a good shot to be able to see that. But I do like the comp there. Moving on to number 8 here. A guy that Matt does not have on his list because he will have him at it. That he will have, I'm presuming, on a coming list. And I was really fighting battles if I had him here on the edge list or here on the linebacker list. That's one Jalon Walker. Man, if there was one player that the NFL draft community is just torn apart on, it is this guy. We have people that are really, really well respected within the industry that has this guy as like a top 5, top 10 prospect. And then we have other guys that I don't see it at all. And I have him at 8 for a reason. I don't really see that from him, given I'm not one of the top guys within the industry. For me, in terms of being an edge rusher, I think he's very twitchy and explosive. He has very good motor. He has fine bend. It's not like a plus bend. It's not bend that I'm like, this is amazing, but I think the bend is there, and he does have good closing speed. But then that gets into that bigger question that I was referring to. Is he going to be a stack backer, or is he going to be an edge? And I didn't really like his linebacker tape either. So that's why I put him at edge. I thought his linebacker tape was pretty not fun, unenthused, I think. And if we're going to throw him at edge, he's a smaller edge. He's going to be 6'1", and it shows. He has bad power. It just does not exist. And he has bad run tape. I think even as a linebacker, I didn't like his run tape. So how is that going to project even further at the next level in the NFL when you ask him to put on and set the edge and stop the run, either at linebacker or at the edge? And then hand usage. He just doesn't have good hand usage at all. I really do not see it. This is one of the most perplexing players I have watched, because I went in and I know how much people love him, but he's just another small, twitchy edge rusher for me. He hasn't really shown anything that has enthused me. I'm not like, wow, this guy is going to be really, really good at either position. For me, he's a good blitzing linebacker, better blitzing linebacker than what he is, even an edge rusher. And he's a twitchy guy that projects more as a stack backer for me. And I hate to say it, but he reminds me a lot of Devin White. And that's what Devin White was coming out of LSU. And look where Devin White is now. He signed a contract with the Eagles, got cut, played with the Texans for a little bit, and is now a free agent. No shot to Devin White, but it has not worked out. These undersized hybrid linebacker edge rushers just don't plan out the way that people really want them to. I really cannot get there with him, and I'm again at a loss for why people love him as much as they do. But that's Jalon Walker for me. He's just a twitchy small edge rusher, nothing special, which could be hard for people to hear. But I might be eating crow pie here come 2 years, but here we are. I know you'll get into him in a little bit, but your thoughts on him as strictly an edge rusher?
Yeah, he's awkward. because, like you said, he's small and he doesn't convert to speed to power that well. He's not a full time guy because he's a small guy, because he just doesn't play the run, intelligently enough to be on the field for all three downs. He's tough, man. I think like we've had this talk off air that it's like it's hard to like because there's people I truly truly respect in this business who have been doing this so much longer than I that they have Jalen Walker in the top 5 players and I'm like I struggle to find a place to put him in the top 15 picks. Like I
Yeah.
don't it is all the athlete, it is all of that, just potential that we always want to talk about. But I think back to the league. The league told us 2 years ago that Nolan Smith was not a top 20 player and snuck into the first round. So, again, and Nolan Smith actually worked out and showed off at the combine where Jalen
And he had
Walker has
better
done.
tape.
Yeah, and Jalen Walker's done none of that. So it's really, really fascinating talking about Jalen Walker because it's just you're not going to draft an off-ball guy that high. And if I had to rank him as an edge, I'd probably have him similar to where you have him right here. It's probably maybe a little above my 8 guy and probably above Umanmielan, and that still puts him at 7. And it's like, am I taking that guy in the top 10, top 15 picks? No, not even close. So he's a very, just the word is awkward because someone's going to take him and hopefully you have a plan in mind when taking him. But overall, like, I think we both see eye to eye that it's just like, we can't find a spot that this makes sense because he's definitely not a top 10 player.
No. Yeah. I'm glad we see eye to eye on that one because I thought when I was writing him up, I thought I was going absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what am I missing? But I'm glad that I have someone that at least agrees with me a little bit here with that one. But you're number 8 guy.
Donovan Ezeriruaku out of Boston College. The pros, long and handsy winner at edge. Quick, active hands that showcase his technique and placement in the run game shedding and overall pass rush winning methods. The bag of pass rush moves are limitless, and he showcases his flexibility, and he wins primarily with a rip and a swim. But again, like he has all of them in his bag. Like he flashes the club move, he flashes a ghost, he flashes the dip against lower level athletes at the tackle position. So he's got everything in the bag to really be a successful and intelligent pass rusher. Being shorter gives him advantage in the leverage battles, and he takes advantage. What I was just talking about with Swinson is that like he knows what he's doing in the leverage game, being a shorter player. Great production in 2024, 60 pressures, 14 sacks, mixed with 42 run stops, all according to PFF. And then the cons, like he is just a naturally small built pass rusher. Will be overmatched just in some run situations naturally, and against stifling anchors at tackle will instantly lose reps. It just happens because of his size. Like he has such, I have this marked, like he has such weird dimensions because his arms are so freaking long. Like they're over 34 inches, man. Like it's crazy, but he's not even like 250. So it's just a rare size frame that I've never seen before. Maybe there's someone out there that has seen a guy like this, but the play strength limits the speed to power move being a consistent threat for me. He's a good defined athlete, but the athletic profile is just it's overall like he's a good athlete, but it's hard to make exception and justify the overall size and frame is what I'm trying to say. Like there are guys who are super duper athletes that can make up for what they are as an edge rusher. Where I don't see it with Ezeriruaku, but that's not how he wins. He wins with his long arm stuff and his powerful hands. Like so again, like Ezeriruaku, I still see as like a top 50 guy pretty easily because just supply and demand, and I think that he is unique to some of these guys up at the top that I think someone is going to catch on with him, but I know you really like him, so talk about him.
Yeah, he's my number 4 guy. And I really struggled with number 4 and number 5, and we'll get into number 5 as well a bit later on. I absolutely loved him. I mean, from the moment that I had seen his tape, I loved him. It shouldn't be a shock. There is a type of edge rusher that I tend to fall for way more than what the consensus does. Joan Ellis last year, Donovan Ezeriruaku this year. These undersized, just nuanced pass rushers in every way. I absolutely love. And again, nuance is the best way I could put him. He had 16 and a half sacks, which was number 2 in the country, number 1 in the Power 5, or I guess Power 4 conferences. As you said, he has very long arms, which was a little bit unproportional to his body size, as you mentioned, at 34 inches. I thought he showed a very wide variety of pass rush moves on tape, and I thought he showed natural bend as well. And at 6'2", as we talked about guys with leverage, I think he uses his leverage very well for a small guy. And I think for his size, he sets the edge better than what you would expect. I don't think he's this elite edge setter like a couple of the guys that we're going to get up, like the number 2 guy, for example, or my number 6 guy. But I think for his size, he sets the edge very, very well. And he plays almost every snap. I don't know what the exact percentages, but it seems like he is in every play on defense. Like, this guy never comes off the field. In terms of cons, again, it goes back to that undersized thing. He's 6'2", and because of that, I don't think he has very good power. And then within the run game, he can set that edge, but I think he abandons his responsibility and his gap way more than what I would have liked. And then to that athleticism point, as you said, for a smaller guy, he didn't show this amazing lateral explosion that you would have hoped. But for me, again, I think he's a true pass rush specialist that really leans on good hand usage, bend, and long arms, but just needs to develop a little bit more in that power department. But again, I think a team is absolutely going to fall in love with what he can offer as a pass rush ceiling and say, well, he was at least able to get it done at a serviceable level in the run game. And if he can stay on the field on the run game and really let him loose and pin his ears back on those pass rushing downs, it was just hard for me to not fall in love with this guy. Again, I adore him. Love him. So, but that's Donovan Ezeriruaku for me at number 4. Now going on to our number 7 prospect. For me, it's Nic Scourton. He has a way longer first name, which I'm not going to try to pronounce. I honestly thought his first name was Nick, N-I-C, Scourton, but it's like Nick Dietrich Scourton, I think is actually how you pronounce his first name. But he just goes by Nick. And if we were looking strictly at his Purdue tape, he would be higher up on the board for me. But when he made that transition to Texas A&M, he didn't have that same pass rush production that we saw at Purdue. He led the Big Ten in sacks when he was at Purdue just a year ago at this point. But I'm not super concerned about that. He showed that he could do it. A&M does not ask any of their defensive linemen to really rush the passer. There's going to be a guy later up on the board who me and you both love. And you look at even Nolan, he transferred out to Ole Miss, and he made that jump from how he was as a pass rusher from his first 2 years in A&M to how he was at the D-tackle position at Ole Miss. They just don't ask their guys to pass rush. So him lacking that pass rush production for me isn't too big of a concern. But in terms of pros for him, he's just a very thickly built guy, a very dense guy. And he has strong hands to go along with that. He shows a really good bull rush and really good gap discipline within the run game. And he just hustles every single play. And for a guy that's as big as he is, he has a pretty good spin move. Like when the first 2 or 3 times that I saw it, I was a little shocked. I was like, whoa there, big fella. You should not be moving as well as you are. In terms of concerns for me, the two big ones is that weight and production fluctuation that we saw at Purdue versus what we saw at A&M. And we kind of saw what I think his weight's going to be more at when we saw him at the combine. He dropped like 15, I think it was close to 15, 20 pounds from A&M and what he weighed at A&M to what he was at the combine. It was a lot closer to what he was at Purdue. And then he just isn't this elite pass rusher. And you shouldn't be shocked with the guy that's built like a refrigerator. He just has bad bend. He has stiff ankles, stiff hips, doesn't really dip the shoulder a whole lot. But again, I just think he's a very densely built guy that knows how to use his power to his advantage within the pass rush game. He can really set a hard edge in the run game and be a plus run game defender.
Yeah, so Scourton is at 6 for me, right above Umanmielan. And like I just want to like preface it, like the production in the situation, the best way I could describe it was weird. Like he was way more productive at Purdue, and then he transfers to A&M. He gains weight to fit the system, as you mentioned, with like a Walter Nolan and Shemar Stewart, who we're going to talk about. Like it ends up limiting his overall athletic tools because he is so much bigger. And then you have no idea what any of this means because he shows up at the combine at 257 as opposed to some said over 280 at A&M. And oh, by the way, at the combine at 257, he didn't even work out. So it's like, I don't know if he's trying to show up and show everybody, look at me, this is the weight I play at. Or it's a, I lost so much weight, I can't do anything. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was weird, man. It was just weird to see him at that weight and not do anything because you would think losing that much weight, you would want to show off like Stewart did. But into his eval overall, the pros: long, powerful punisher, consistency in the edge set game, and is a mean pocket pusher. The get off and the twitch is great stuff for a guy his size. I think he times up stuff really, really well. Quick, active, powerful hands lead to good things in the run game in the splash play department, more so, TFLs and sacks, but didn't have the major production there. Like he was just getting to the quarterback, but wasn't finishing everything. Has a bag of deep pass rushing moves, flashes the winning ability with swim rips and spins primarily. You mentioned the spin stuff, and he flashes a mean hump move, the old Reggie White. The cons: burst and acceleration off the ball is a minus, limits the ceiling of a speed to power, consistent winning maneuver. You mentioned it, stiff bender on the outside shoulder of tackles for me. And he still ways to go in the run game as a consistent player. Like I talked about his splash plays and things like that, but as a consistent player, he struggles with sinking the hips as a run defender and will get antsy and be undisciplined in the run game, leading to plausible explosives, leading to big runs. So overall, Scourton he is a weird guy, man, because early in the process, it was like, this guy was like top 3 on everyone's edge boards kind of during the season, because I think we all saw what he did at Purdue. And then he has the year at A&M, and people start digging into the A&M stuff and going, this guy, no, like, this is not a top 3 guy. There's some people who still love Nic Scourton in that range, but overall, like, I think he's a first-round player. Like, where do you stand on Nic Scourton, like, the draft range? Do you think he's going to go in the first round? Maybe not, like, set in stone, but, like, is he a first-round player caliber for you?
Within this draft class, yes. Given, I mean, we've all said it numerous times. I think I'll probably have close to 15 true first-round grades. But I wouldn't be shocked if he sneaks his way into the back end of the first round there. The Eagles pick at 32 or something like that. Sorry, guys. The Eagles pick there at 32. For me, I think he's a top 40 player. I think he's going to be back end of round 1, early round 2. I'd be shocked if he was taken within the top 20 picks. But I would not at all be shocked if he was taken with like somewhere with the last 12 picks. But Nic Scourton there. And you said he was number 6 for you?
He was number 6 for me, yes.
Okay. I'm wondering if we're going to twin here, if we're going to have a match. Numbers, I guess we can't because he was 6 for you. But number 6 for me is Mykel Williams. He's your standard Georgia player who has the tools, has the frame, but was just on your limited snap count. A lot of people want to compare him to the guy that we saw taken, number 1 overall just a couple years ago, and Trayvon Walker. I can't get quite there. I don't think he has the same athletic tools as Trayvon Walker, but again, within that same mold, a guy that shows he can do it, but just played on that limited snap count because they rely so heavily on rotating those guys in and out. But he had a good frame. He's 6'5", 260. And I do think he was one of the few guys that I can say this in the class about, a plus run defender. He did a very good job of setting an edge, shedding a block, shedding the defender, and making the tackle within the run game. And I think he plays with really good power, and he's able to convert his speed to power as well. And I would hope so with his limited snap count, but he plays with a good motor. He is just continuously go, 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 go every single time that he is on the field. That being said, he doesn't have that same quick get off, that same burst. His hand usage isn't there. I'd like to see it better. I think he has strong hands. That doesn't necessarily mean he has very good hands. That snap rotation, like I said, I think he lacks a pass rush plan. I don't think he goes in there and is trying to set anyone up over the course of a game with his different moves he has. And then again, it being 6'5", I think he stands up very, very quickly, exposing his chest with his high pad level. But yeah, Mykel Williams.
Yeah, I had him at 5. Again, like, the length and the size is there to be an extremely effective on or off the ball edge at the line of scrimmage. Easy floor because of his run game strengths, quick, powerful hands in the run game, matched with discipline in the diagnose phase and shed ability. Has a motor until the whistle in the run game and the pass game will sniff out. He has that in the pass game in a way where he sniffs out stuff at the line of scrimmage. He gets his arms up and bats balls down. I really liked that. And then flashes the speed to power productive reps of pocket push and double team sheds, which is what you want to see from a guy his archetype. The cons, not a good pass rusher. Doesn't have a plan, doesn't have a winning maneuver, and is stiff, and doesn't have desired leverage. He is just a complete work in progress in the one department that you don't want him to be a work in progress in. So, like, it's the hands are powerful, but with technique rarely flash any winning formula. The duo of get off and overall timing of the snap was lackluster, and it needs to get better. And then lastly, his ankle injury limited most of his 2024 season. Like, Mykel Williams, he has all the archetype stuff to be one of the stars at the edge position, but overall, like, I just don't see this guy being a productive edge rusher because he's not going to get to the quarterback. Like, he is a prototypical on the field quickly because of those early down run game stuff, and he's off the field on third down, which if you're taking him likely in the first round, which I have him as a top 32 player, like, I think he's a top 32 pick, it's just you're going to have to wait on him because he's going to have to figure out most of his pass rush stuff. And he's a young guy. He's only 21, so again, there's time behind it. He's not going to get on the field and immediately change the game, but like we talk about quarterbacks all the time where it's like you need a redshirt year in the NFL. Like, Mykel Williams might be one of those guys that you can't throw out there right away and expect production because he's still learning how the game is going. So, yeah, like, I had him, again, he was another guy I had pretty high early in the process, but overall just kind of just compare and contrast with most of these guys, I ended up with a pretty majorly consensus top 6 among these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And him and Scourton were two guys that I went like back and forth throughout the entire process, flipping back and forth on, and it just turned out to be this way.
I was out on Scourton so early. Like maybe it was because of the top 3 stuff, but I was like Scourton like top 50 player, probably not. And then like I kind of full circled to being like, yeah, all right, 6 is a good spot for him. So yeah,
absolutely. Number 5 is going to be a guy that I know a lot of people absolutely love. At one point in the season, before the season had started, I actually put money on him to win the Heisman, just because his odds were very good. That's one James Pearce. I can't quite get there with James Pearce. I really tried, but he just lacks a lot of power. He doesn't really have elite bend. He's not really good against the run. Okay, I don't want to say he doesn't have elite bend. His bend is fine, but there's just too much questions for me. But in terms of a good thing, I think he is a high level athlete. We saw him put that on full display at the combine, and I think he is a very lengthy athlete. 6'5", has the 34-inch arms that we love to see. One thing that he was very, very good at Tennessee over the course of the last 2 years really shows was his ability to jump the snap and really time up as soon as he's exploding with as soon as the snap is and guessing that. And that truly is a skill that you have to learn and develop. And he did a very, very good job with that. And there were a couple guys with the bigger frames that I've talked about that struggled with the leverage in high pad, but he did a very good job of being this longer, taller athlete, but still being able to get underneath the pads and use his leverage. And then I do think he does have a good bend. On the flip side of that, the very first thing that you have to talk about with him is these supposed character concerns. No, again, I've said it before, no one has been able to actually say what these concerns are. But there are, again, guys within the business that truly report on this and believe that. But that's neither here nor there. But those character concerns do exist, at least within reports. And as I said, I think he's bad against the run. I think he has very weak punches. I think he has very bad power, and I think if he does not win at the start of the snap, he's not going to win. He does not have the recovery to make the play after he's lost the snap. But again, I think he's a very long, lengthy athlete, has a good frame, but lacks that true power. But yeah, he's number 5 for me, which isn't bad. I think he'll be within the top 20-ish picks. So I might be lower on him than normal people are, but I still think he's a good player, a fine player.
Yeah, I have him at 3. The pros, you mentioned it. He elite athlete with his speed, agility, and overall explosiveness off the ball. Flashes speed to power sometimes. He timed up snaps, you mentioned it, extremely well, leading to production in a power conference. The hands flashed up really quickly in one-on-one point of attack contact. Plays small with good leverage in the run game, gets skinny in those things like that. And he had real pass rush production the last 2 years. The cons, light for the position, leading to getting moved out of the way by overpowering tackles. I mentioned it with Ezeriruaku. Lacks overall bag of moves to win, like flashes mostly athlete stuff where he dips and rips around the edge and things like that. And then the hands are a work in progress, not strong enough to consistently win with speed to power, even if it is flashed. Most wins came with leverage and, off the ball, off the line of scrimmage timing. So, yeah, I mean, he's, again, one of those guys that's like, if you can put the athlete stuff together, this could be a great player. But at the same time, I didn't mention the character concerns because I don't know what they are. It's overall just ranking the player that I see on tape. But yeah, that's definitely something that's going to flash is what was it? I was reading a 4th round mock the other day. They had he dropped to pick 60. And I think for the player, that's insane. That's outstanding. Yeah. Because he's a really, really good player. It's just, I don't know how the character concerns are going to add up. We see one of these guys every single year. I think he's going to be a talented football player if he escapes these character concern kind of, titles around him. But overall, I think he's a top 3 pass rusher in this class because of his strengths. But I think he makes up for his weaknesses in his strengths. So it's just putting it all together and, again, taking away that label of the character concerns for him.
There you go. And who was your number 5 guy? And might as well do your number 4 guy back to back after that, because I had Ezeriruaku at 4.
I had Mykel at 5. You want me to do 4?
Yes.
Mike Green out of Marshall. So the pros with him, he's a great athlete and he flashes his speed and explosiveness. He has quick and nasty hands that set up a ton of his winning pass rush moves. The rips, the swims, the cross chops. Also does him well in the run game. Has good discipline in the run game and will thump when called upon. High motor that plays until the whistle. The cons, like, he's thin and he's small. Has limited arm length and a sub 250 weight. I forget what he weighed in at the combine, but it might have been not sub 50, sub 250. It might have been a little bit over, but I know he played at sub 250. The pad level and leverage for his size will need to get better at the line of scrimmage to have success. And the speed to power was flash, but overall, power and play strength is a net negative at this time currently. Again, Mike Green is a top 20 player. He's going to go in the top 20 picks because of value at the position. And I could see someone liking him more than me, and he's going in the top 12. So, again, like, early in the process, I was kind of like, the production, I like what he flashes, plays at a lower school, maybe not. But, again, coming full circle, I still have him as the 4th best player. He's really close to James Pearce Jr. and even number 2. So, it's... Again, he's a first-round player. Like, that's all the compliments I can give most of these guys in the top 6. I think all 6 guys are first-round players.
Absolutely. Yes, he officially weighed in just above that 250 mark. He weighed in at 251 at the combine. Mm-hmm. But as you said, definitely played under
some
that
water weight on
mark.
there.
Exactly. Yeah, no, he, just like I said with Ezeriruaku, this guy's a true pass rush specialist. I had to throw in that power 4 little nuance here when talking about Ezeriruaku, because Mike Green led all of FBS with sacks, 15 or 17 sacks on the season for him. Very twitchy, quick athlete, and as you said, shows a very deep bag of pass rush moves. A very good hand fighter, and he was number 3 for me as well. Very good hand fighter. And he does a good job of dropping those pads in cornering. And then, as you said, he has that very high motor. That being said, again, this doesn't go into how I evaluate the prospects, just like it was with James Pearce. It's another guy that has some character concerns about him. There are reports that have resurfaced from him back at high school and then him back at Virginia. Do your own research on that one. But he did have power school offers. Again, he went to Virginia on a no BS clause. It's, if you find yourself in trouble, we are not going to ask questions. You are just going to be gone. And that's exactly what happened. He went to Virginia, stuff had arose, and that's why he found himself at Marshall, and that's why he dominated. Again, no one should be shocked. He had those power offers. But at that lighter weight, I think he does get moved off of his spot in the run game a lot, or he finds himself working around the player rather than through the player or dropping his butt in the hole and just plugging that hole up. And then he lunges to make tackles way too much. He's jumping to make these tackles more than what I would have liked. Again, he's just a smaller prospect. But as I said, again, he's a true sack artist, led the FBS in sacks, and has a really good combination of moves and twitch. But there are concerns about the character and then the smaller school that he had played at. But again, I think in our most recent mock, if you guys want to go and find that, it should be posted. I had him going 9 to the Saints. I could absolutely see a team fall in love with pass rush upside that he offers. And this gets into our top two, and it makes me really happy. I would be very shocked if our 1 and 2 aren't the same. I know me and you have seen eye to eye on our number 2 guy pretty much over the course of the last month or so, where a lot of people don't even have this guy ranked top 5 for some reason, which is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. That'd be Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M. But we both really love this guy. I'll let you kind of take the lead on him, and then I'll wrap things up.
Yeah, his number one pro to me, elite physical tools, exclamation point. Speed, power, explosiveness, height, length, weight, all tapped into him, ready to go day one. Every single bit of his physical shape is already created for you. The bull rush and the speed to power is the calling card. He's really disruptive when the leverage is right and can just manhandle guys backwards. The run defense is a plus, disciplined and diagnose and sheds quickly. The body type to be a true inside-outside player, and that means, lining up at edge, lining in the interior. He has that ability that not many players coming into the league have already in their bag. The cons are simple. Like, wins only as a pass rusher with his physical gifts and doesn't have a plan of attack. Hands need refinement and technique to really be a successful NFL player. Can be stiff and uncoordinated due to his large size at edge, gets stopped in his track, and this flashed against Will Campbell. Like, mostly like just the stiffness and the attack of it all. Like, Will Campbell stopped him in his tracks for 3 hours, even though, Nussmeier had a pretty bad day in College Station. And then lastly, the production didn't have, major conversion of finishing, good pressure numbers, limited sacks, good run stops. So overall, like, the production's whatever. Like, I'm never going to be one of those people that is so bent out of shape that if a guy doesn't have 15 sacks, he can't go in the top 5. Because I believe that was Shemar Stewart. Like, I think that is the talent that we're talking about here, because you don't see guys with his physical gifts walking into the league often. And the last time we really did at this size, he went number 1 to Jacksonville in Trayvon Walker. And he's been a pretty, I don't want to see a great player, but he's been a pretty decent, good player. Maybe not number 1 overall pick because of the guy taken behind him, but just overall, I think Shemar Stewart has all the makings to be a successful player, and I think we both see eye to eye on this player.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it any better. This archetype of player is a player that I usually tend to be more out on than consensus, because we all fall in love with these physical tools and the physical upside that these players have. And to be frank, outside of Trayvon Walker and Danielle Hunter, they don't usually come full circle and come together. But I don't know what it is about Shemar Stewart, but I absolutely love him. As you said, the big thing with him is just his physical upside and how well he moves, how quick he is at his size, having 34-inch arms and moving as well as he does at 281. Again, he shows a very good speed to power, and maybe this might be me overcompensating a little bit for a guy that had come out last year and flashed very good speed to power that I wasn't as high on, one Jared Verse, and obviously they're not my one-to-one comparison, but having a true speed to power and a good long arm is a very, very good tool to have against these big NFL offensive tackles. Again, he sets the edge very well, has good lateral quickness, all stuff you said, and then it goes back to that minimal production, which I'm not too concerned about because, as we've covered with the previous A&M guy, I just don't think they're asking these guys to rush the passers as much as what we would have liked. And again, he's just a stiff guy. He doesn't have this elite bend, but he has the elite physical upside. And it's just very, very hard to ignore. He has a great combination of size and athleticism that has the potential to really flash as a high-end pass rusher, but still has a very good floor to be a good edge shutter right away. So he's number 2 for me. And then number one, which would be not shocked at all, a guy that we talked about at the top. There was conversation about him maybe going one overall. Now that's kind of transitioned back, and now he won't. That's Abdul Carter. He is just so much fun. Again, I don't know if I want to quite use the term generational, but he's pretty darn close to being a generational prospect here, guys. He has amazing first step. He is he has physical upside, and he's a very physical player, but is super bendy as well and can set the edge. Shows a good pass rush bag already with a good rip move, swim move, and spin move. And he's a guy that's only played the true edge rushing position for 1 year at Penn State. He was an outside linebacker before this. Obviously, the very, very easy comparison is to Micah Parsons, but Abdul Carter has shown more pass rush upside than what Micah did coming out of Penn State. And obviously, Micah has been a very, very good player that has put up very good sack numbers, but Abdul Carter has shown better upside as a pass rusher than what he is already. Again, he shows great combination of that bendiness, physicality, amazing first step. That being said, really the three things that stand out to me is that elite power. He doesn't have elite power. I think it's fine power, but you don't often see him bull rushing a guy. I think he's still developing a pass rush plan, but I think that just stems from him, not having a whole lot of time at the edge rushing position as is. And then as of right now, I'm not too concerned about this, but I'll throw it in here. That's just injuries with the whole shoulder stuff, but it seemed to not matter. He absolutely dominated Notre Dame with one good shoulder, and then he has that hairline fracture in his foot. But again, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to really matter. He's just a guy that has shown so much at only 1 year as a true edge rusher. He's so good. So gosh darn good.
Yeah, Abdul Carter, my number one. He's gonna be my number one player.
Me as well.
Confidently. Like, I think it's him, Trav, and then figure it out. I would understand if you have Trav 1 too. I don't want that to be mistaken, but overall, like, his pros, generational bend and explosive athlete. The dip and rip move he has is the best I've ever seen doing this. Like, the last, I haven't been doing it super, super long, but the last few years, I've really dug myself into this, and this guy is just a head turner. Has a real motor in the run game to make explosives happen. Just thinking back to that Notre Dame game, just the way he is finding the ball carrier, Jeremiah Love, he is just so good. Strong edge setting mentality, has the length, the size, and the speed to play at a high level, and he has the real pass production this past season. The cons, like, the pass rush plan is still raw in terms of how he wins. Again, only 1 year into playing the position. And, sometimes he wins by simply being a unique athlete right now, which isn't the worst way to win, even at the next level. It can only get better in terms of his hand technique and overall plan of attack. He'll figure things out. He has the moves in his skill set. I don't want to say he's just nothing right now, but just overall, if he gets violent hands and really knows what he's doing in the technique department, like, this is where the trajectory goes for him, talking about a Micah Parsons. His dip can be chipped off the line of scrimmage, leading to immediately lost reps, but he has the high motor to make up for it. So it's like, that's his counter move, is like, oh man, I missed on the dip and rip because I'm so good at it, like, you got me off base, but I'm just going to keep going. And then he just tries to run through you, and yeah, that's the last thing, is the upper body strength. The upper body strength, physicality, power, however you want to frame it. That's my last con with him. If he continues to get bigger, which I expect he is, like, he's still a super young guy. I think he's still only 21. Like, again, he's just going to continue to get better, just overall. But yeah, I mean, Abdul Carter, I just want to look up what is his size right now listed. Like, he's listed at 252 on PFF at at 21 years old. Like, if that guy adds upper body strength and gets even bigger, like in the chest and the arms,
It's
watch out.
done.
Watch out, NFL. That's why I have him as my number one player.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Again, no shock there. We see, again, perfectly eye to eye with him on that one. He is my number one player as well. Do you want to run through your 10 to 1?
Yes, I can. Number 10, Jordan Burch out of Oregon. Number 9, Bradyn Swinson out of LSU. Number 8, Donovan Ezeriruaku out of Boston College. Number 7, Priestley Umanmielan out of Ole Miss. 6, Nic Scourton out of Texas A&M. 5, Mykel Williams out of Georgia. 4, Mike Green out of Marshall. 3, James Pearce Jr. out of Tennessee. 2, Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M. And lastly, number 1, Abdul Carter out of Penn State.
There you go. 10 to 1 for me is Femi Oladejo. I think I said that right. Out of UCLA. Yes. Femi Oladejo out of UCLA. Prince Umanmielan at 9. Jalon Walker at 8. Nic Scourton at 7. Mykel Williams at 6. James Pearce at 5. Donovan Ezeriruaku all the way up at 4. Mike Green at 3. Shemar Stewart at 2. And Abdul Carter at 1. Make sure you guys tune into next week's prospect, next week's ranking.